Hello! In this tutorial I'll teach you how to create a page that you can use in a third-party API or in a AJAX request. So let's log in our framework, select one of the workspaces, the projects, and let's create a new page called Insert Record through API or through AJAX. So after we have the page editor open for the corresponding page that we created, let's switch the template for the AJAX template corresponds for the API, so we can use it as a third-party API. So the next step is we want to create a resource here in the main settings, in the resource tab, that will insert a record into one of our databases tables according with the inputs that this page will receive through the URL or through the post method. So first of all, let's see which tables that we currently have in our database, these three tables comes by default with the demo, which are these three tables: the school, the student and the teacher, where basically a school has multiple students and a school has multiple teachers, as we can see here in the diagram. So what we're gonna do is, for the sake of this tutorial, we'll use the student table, where we'll insert, basically we'll create a new resource to insert new students, passing the school ID and passing the name. So what we want to do here, we open the main settings, the resource tab, and we want to add a new action. So the actions to insert the students, we already have that actions created before in here in our demo. In previous tutorials I show you how can you do that. So what we're gonna do now is not to create from scratch that specific services. What we're gonna do is to use one of the business logic service that is already created, that we can use to insert a record into this student table. So first thing to do is to select here the call business logic service and to click in this button here, so we can get that specific service that it will insert a school, which will insert a student record. So we select the correspondent group of services and we click here insert and we do update. And we have here automatically the data filled up for us in here, with the exception with this parameter here. So this parameter here, basically this method here, that we can see this receives input variable that needs to contain a variable called attributes, and inside of that variable attributes, that's where we're gonna have the real attributes data with the correspondent value, so we can create a new school. So which means that in here, in these parameters, we need to have the attributes and attributes lists or array, that inside will have then the correspondent school ID, and then we'll have the correspondent name of the school. And then here, according with the values that we put here, then we'll call this business logic service and it will insert the correspondent values into this database. So that's how this business logic service works. In the previous tutorials, basically I teach you how to fill up and how to create all of this automatically, while the system fills up all these fields for us. Now what we are doing now is to create this manually from scratch, basically how to call these services from scratch. So what we need to put here now is, if we want to call this page through the URL, so we need to get these variables, the school ID and the name, through the URL. So what we need to do is to click here, say that I want to get these variables from the URL, where in here I want to get the school ID, and in here I want to get the name, something like that. Okay, and then I need to set the results of the return result of this business logic service. I needed to put it in a resource, in the name, so let's just call it here status. And now we have already our resources created, which called status, which is basically we are calling a business logic service, which is this one, and we are passing these two values that are coming from the URL. So now what we want to do next is to go from to here to this region, and we want to print this specific resource, where basically we just need to put this code. So inside of hashtags we need to put resources, and inside of brackets we need to put the name of the resource that we put in here. So it needs to be exactly the same. So basically it will put in this variable, the status variable, the result of this business logic service, and in here it will print that specific result. So if we save this and if we preview this page, we'll see an exception because saying that, oh, there is no school ID, so we need to pass here the corresponding parameters, which are the school ID and the name. So we get here and we put school ID equal to 1 and name equal to student Maria, something like that. And here it is, we get the ID number 4. So if we want to know more about it, we can just go here to the students, and we can see the current records that we currently have in the students table. So here it is, the new student, the new record that we just add. If we go here and if we put something else, like a new name for the school number 1, 2, we have the ID number 5, and in here if we refresh this, we can see that now we have the new correspondent, the new student that we just had. Okay, perfect. Now let's say that, so basically this is a page that I can use, that I can call it through an AJAX request, or that I can call through an external API, or that I can call simply through via command line, like example, like something like this. As you can see, I create ID number 6. Is exactly the same thing. So if I go here and if I refresh, I'll have 2 JPs. This is just an example to show you how you can create a very simple page that you can use then in external API, or that you can use through AJAX request. So the next step that we're going to do is we're going to create a second page, which basically then will call this page here. And this second page basically will contain a form that will insert basically these specific records. So one of the things, or we can add a new, page with that, or we could add, or we could go to the students table here, and we could change the corresponding place where he's calling is inserting the new students. Is exactly the same thing. So first let's just go to the students table, where basically in here what we're gonna do is, in here when we are adding a new student, let's go to the form widget, and in the form, instead of calling this resource here, which is the insert resource that the system created automatically, as I show you in the previous tutorials. So we have here in insert a resource that the system created automatically, which is basically calling exactly the same thing that we did according with the attributes, but this is via posts. So instead of calling this, what we can do is we can call it in here via URL, where in here we can call now that page that we just created, this page, the insert record through API. So we need to, when we want to pass these values through get, and we want this return a JSON. So if we do something like this, and if we save and then preview the page, when we are adding a new record, this won't work still, because we still need to do something in the other page that we created first. So that's why we are getting this error here. So what we need to do, so let me show you. If you do an inspect, if you go here to your network, every time they do add, we can see that basically what is doing is sending the school ID and the name inside of this attributes variable. So what we need to do is in here, so we need to go back to the previous page where we were. So in this page here, we need to change now the correspondent resource to, instead of getting these variables directly, the school ID, we need to get it from the URL2, but first we need to get it in the attributes and only after the school ID. And in here is exactly the same thing. The attributes first and then the name. So if we save this, and now if I add, it was added successfully. So as we can see here, it was added successfully. So let's delete this and let's create a new one so you can see this better. So if I add a new record, so we can erase this, doesn't really matter. So I can choose now the school and I put the name of the new student. If I scroll down, here it is the name, according with that specific school. If we want, we could create a new page to basically to do this manually, which is very simple too. So basically we go to pages, we add a new page, which now we can do form to insert student through API, something like, or insert through API through AJAX, which basically will call this other page that we just created. In here we select the correspondent templates, or we leave the project default template, which is this one, and in here basically we'll create our own form. So we can do that very simple. So let's add here a form. Let's add here a group, where in here we can put here, we'll put the here will be the school ID, which in here, well, in here should be, it should be a text box, it should be a combo box. We can add some classes. We can make these more beautiful. Okay. In here we can add the name of the students. We can add a text box. Add some classes, something like this. Okay. The school ID, basically we want to get automatically the values for the school, so we can simply go here and select the get options query type for the school, where basically the system creates a query to get all the school's names with IDs and the names and put automatically in here. Okay, and now the form, is missing the button at last, so we can put here a button, where this button we can add some classes, so it can be more beautiful. Something like that. Okay. Where basically this button we need to add the event. So what the system did in the previous page, in the students list page. So in this page, what the system did automatically, basically we are doing this manually. So in this button here, we want, when the user clicks, we want to trigger the add resource item of the form, and we need to set that add resource in the form. So we just scroll up, and in here in the add resource, what we do, we expand this part here, and we want to call an URL, which is that page that we created, which is the insert record through API. Through get, the data type will be JSON, the return data type. We can put a complete, so every time that we insert successfully, we can reset the form. And we can put here a successful message saying students inserted successfully. Otherwise, sorry, this is the callback, so the message is here, and otherwise we put the error message saying error, try again, something like that. Okay, so if we save this now, of course we could make this much more beautiful with some CSS. That's not the purpose of this tutorial. So if in here, when we preview this page, we can see that we get loaded all the schools. So we select a specific school, we put the name of the user, Anthony, and when we click save, we got an error. So let's see why we are getting that error. So if we click save, currently he's not doing anything. So let's see, in the form, so it's missing, so we need to put here, we cannot forget, we need to put here the resource name. So we can put some name, it needs to be a unique name for the resource. Since this is the only resource that we are creating, it doesn't really matter. So we can just put insert add student, it's fine. And we just save. And in here we can add this to ads. So after we preview this again, now when we add, you can see that we are getting, it's missing something. Okay, we're getting another error because we forgot to do something, which is, so in here, so for this text box, we need to put the name. So this text box, we need to put the name, which is the name of the attribute, which is the name, and in here in the school, in the drop down, it needs to be school ID. School ID. Okay, let's just remove the dimensions that I add by mistake. Okay, so now if we save, I should remove the dimensions here too that I add by mistake. Okay, now if we refresh the page and select again the school and put the name, some name, we click add, and voila, we have student inserted successfully. So we are sending basically the school ID equal to 1 in the attributes, and the name AAA, which was the name that we put it here, because was inserted successful. The form was reset, so the form basically it execute the complete handler, which we selected, which was the reset form. If we choose another school and we put here, so now we put Anthony finally. We click add, the student was inserted successfully. This was the message that we wrote, and as we can see, the school ID now it's 9 and the name is Anthony. So this is just an example to show you how can you, basically what this is doing is calling the page that we created. So it's calling, basically it's calling this page here, so as we can see in here. So we can see that we are calling this page the insert record API page. So this page here, which was the page that we created. And one thing that we can do, if we want to, we can check just to confirm the records in the database. As you can see in the students database, we can see here the records it will contain all the records that we had. So here are all the records that we had through here, or we could simply, which will be much easier, we could just come here and do the preview of the page showing all the records, the new records that we just had, which were these ones here. And that's it. So basically the tutorial was to show you how can you create basically a new page that simply receives inputs, and based on that inputs you insert them, you execute some logic, and in this case this logic was inserting that specific inputs in a database table, which was the student table, and we did it in two different ways. So we call directly this page through the URL and then through command line, and then we create another page, or well, first we change the students pop-up, the students page, the pop-up where we're adding new students, to call directly this new page, and then we create a second page where basically we create a form to add new students, and in order to add new students the form was calling this page through AJAX requests. So this is just to show you how easy it is to create multiple different pages that can be used from third-party APIs. This is just an example, and that's it. So thank you very much.